All right, so after a bit of a hiatus for the Thanksgiving holiday, I am back and I have just seen the latest John Woo movie, Silent Night. It's an action Christmas movie that I was quite excited to see because, I like Christmas, I like action movies, so you put them two together, it should be a great thing. I will say I am not very well versed in the filmography of Mr. Woo. I have seen Mission Impossible 2, which was not very good, and now I've seen this movie. I am aware he has a very extensive filmography, both in Hong Kong and in Hollywood, but that was a bit before my time, before I kind of came on the scene. So there are some classic John Woo movies that I need to catch up on. So I apologize for my ignorance, but as of now, this and Mission Impossible 2 are the only John Woo movies I have seen. So keeping that in mind, I am aware that he has made much better movies than these two, because I didn't like Mission Impossible 2, and I didn't quite like this movie that much either. I can see clearly that John Woo knows how to direct good action scenes. The action scenes in this movie are all really good. They're not on the level of something like John Wick or even the more modern Mission Impossible movies. They're not on that level, I would say, but they're definitely above average. So that was at least entertaining. Unfortunately, it's all the other stuff that really drags this movie down. This movie is completely devoid of any character development whatsoever, and that is entirely down to because no one talks in this movie, which I had no idea. I didn't watch any of the trailers, so I don't know if this is in the trailers or not, but the main character, this isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailers, he gets his vocal cords shot out in the beginning of the movie, so he can't talk. Which is kind of interesting. We had the strong silent type of protagonist a bunch, but having someone that literally can't talk is not super common, I would say. That was an interesting, and obviously it goes on a play on words with Silent Night in the title. But I didn't know that no one else in the movie spoke at all. And it makes it so there's a lot of visual storytelling going on here, and John Woo is able to convey what is going on through characters' heads pretty well. I was never confused about what was happening. The problem is that it was all super duper shallow, and I didn't get connected to any of the characters because none of them are talking to each other. Our main character has a wife, and we know nothing about their relationship because they never speak. They talk to each other over text like twice, but it's only to convey how isolated our main character has made himself. So it was really hard for me to get invested in anybody. There's a police character that we know nothing about because he also doesn't talk. It was a creative choice, and I think if they did something more unique with the idea of no one talking in this movie, then I think this movie would have been a lot more enjoyable. But I think when they sat down and thought of ideas for this movie, they're like, what if not only does our main character not talk, but nobody talks in this movie? And they didn't think of anything else besides that. They're just like, okay, yeah, that's what we're doing. And nobody talks, and it's just going to be, that's the movie. And I've heard some people mention that it would have been more interesting if they played around with his now disability of not being able to talk, and that informed his character, that created a struggle for him. I personally think it would have been a lot more interesting if the movie was very talkative for the first 15 minutes before he gets his throat shot. And he's super charismatic and sarcastic and funny and witty, and he's the life of the party. And then this tragedy happens and he loses his voice, and that a complete essential aspect of his personality has just been taken away from him in one instant. And we can see the contrast between the beginning of the movie and the rest of the movie, and how something as traumatic as losing your voice can change your whole personality and make you bitter. I think that would have been a lot more interesting and a lot more impactful than just, we don't know what this guy was like because he doesn't talk before he loses his vocal cords, and after he loses his vocal cords, of course he can't talk, and nobody else talks in this movie, so it's not that unique that he can't talk. So that was a little frustrating to me, in case you can't tell. So like I said, the action is still good. If you enjoy action scenes, that's fine. There is no character development. I will say the movie, in my opinion, is kind of boring in the beginning, because he's very sad that this tragedy has happened to him, and there's something else that I don't want to spoil, but he's very sad that these bad things have happened to him. And because he can't talk, all we get is just scene after scene of him being sad and depressed. And that's why John Wick was so effective, because John Wick, we're sad for like 5 minutes and then we're into it. You know, we've seen all this before, let's get into it. This one kind of drags it out more traditionally, and I got kind of bored near the beginning. I'm like, I get it, this guy's sad. He can't talk about how sad he is, he can only have a sad expression on his face. So you can only do that so many times. Also, this movie is not very Christmassy, unfortunately. There's Christmas movies, and then there's movies that happen to take place during Christmas. And despite the movie's title being A Christmas Carol, Silent Night, the movie feels more like a movie that takes place during Christmas than a Christmas movie. I really want to watch Violent Night, which came out last year with the, Santa Claus, but if he was like, John McClane or something like that. I think that would be much more up my speed, because people will talk and it's a lot more Christmassy because Santa Claus is literally in it. But like I said, if you're a fan of John Woo, definitely check this one out. If you're a fan of action, I would say it's worth checking out. But if you're not really into any of that, I would say kind of avoid this one. Maybe wait for streaming if you're a little curious. But besides that, it's not really worth your time. So yeah, I got some more reviews coming out in the next couple of days. I missed a couple movies because of the holidays, but I'm trying to play catch up right now. So bear with me, and we'll see you soon.